I will tell you what we called it in those years before. We called it the courtesy seat. The Earth observer's chair at the Keth Spur Accord table, third tier, left wing, between the OVN filing block and the Theshari technical liaison, sat empty more sessions than it was filled, and when it was filled, the human who occupied it rarely spoke. They took notes. They filed routine acknowledgement forms. They asked once per session whether the agenda had been posted to the auxiliary band in addition to the primary, and we would say yes, and they would nod, and they would return to their notes. We laughed about it. Not cruelly, we told ourselves, only in the way that large things laugh at small ones, the way the current laughs at the reed. The Keshari Directorate had held 7 treaty sectors for 400 years. We had arbitrated the Compact's border collapse and the Accord's succession crisis, and the Veth Concilium's 17-year resource dispute. We did not need a clerk from a single system species that had held a seat for 14 years and had never once cast a vote that changed an outcome. I said that once, publicly, at session 42 when the Earth at HFY, a different one that cycle, they rotated them. We could never keep the names, asked whether the Keth Spur arbitration hold procedures had been filed on both primary and auxiliary band. I said in the open record that the auxiliary band was for equipment logs and decommissioned relay stations, and that the Earth observer was welcome to file whatever they wished on whichever frequency suited a species of their standing. The chamber laughed. I meant it to land that way. That was 14 months before the crisis. The arbitration hold itself began as a procedural matter, a disputed resource extraction license, the Orvith Compact against the Theshari Survey Authority, 3 sectors of contested mineral rights, a quarrel that had simmered for 9 years. Standard Keth Spur workload. We had managed 100 like it. But the filing clerk on the Compact's side had entered the wrong asset classification on Form 7C, and the Theshari Council had countered with a block on all station operations pending review, and the review triggered a secondary hold on the station's power routing arbitration, and the secondary hold froze the environmental processing contract, and the environmental processing contractor locked out the air recyclers pending payment confirmation. And by the time we understood what had happened, 200 people on Keth Spur, 1 were breathing recycled air from a system that had 41 hours of reserve capacity remaining. I filed to the Vantal Compact. Declined. They cited the active Theshari counterblock, which technically placed the station in a contested jurisdiction. I filed to the Theshari Survey Authority's emergency liaison. No response for 6 hours, then a form letter citing the open arbitration as grounds for non-intervention. I filed to the Orvith Compact's senior advocate. He replied, in 3 sentences, that the matter was now in arbitration, and that intervening would constitute a breach of the hold conditions. I filed to 4 more authorities. I will not list them all. They each had a reason. The reasons were, individually, coherent. The Vantal Emergency Council cited contested jurisdiction. The Accord's own mediation bureau cited insufficient quorum to convene. The Theshari technical liaison, the same one who sat 2 chairs from Earth's observer at every session, cited an open review period and said the matter would be escalated to a subcommittee at the next scheduled meeting, which was 11 days away. 11 days. There were 200 people on Keth Spur 1. We had 41 hours of reserve air. Collectively, every answer formed a wall as solid as any I had ever seen built from paper. Each brick was a correct procedure. The wall was a death sentence. On the 31st hour, with 41 hours of reserve becoming 10, I filed to every open band I had access to, including, because it was on the list and because I was no longer selective, the human auxiliary band. The one I had mocked, the one for equipment logs and decommissioned relay stations. I did not expect a reply. I sent the filing and I went back to the main channel and kept working. Attaché Marin Voss docked at Keth Spur 1 secondary base 6 hours later. She had not been scheduled. She had not been assigned. She was not on any manifest I had filed or any authorization I had issued. She came through the corridor to the arbitration annex with a portable terminal under one arm and two polymer cases in the other hand, and she stopped at the door and looked at me and she said, "Second Accord Keeper, I got your filing. Where do you need me?" I did not know what to say to her. I was aware in that moment that I had said something in Session 42 that I could not take back from the record. "The Form 7C classification error," I said. "If that can be corrected, the secondary hold dissolves automatically." "I know," she said. "I read the chain before I came." She set the cases down and opened the terminal. "The compact's filing clerk used asset class 14B. It should be 14D. The reclassification requires a countersignature from a neutral third-party accord observer, which is what I am." She said it without emphasis, the way you state a fact about the weather. "You came without authorization," I said. "The Earth Observer seat has standing as a neutral third party under Section 9 of the Keth-Spur Accord," she said. "I don't need additional authorization to exercise a standing right. I need the original Form 7C, a reclassification addendum, and your co-signature as the presiding accord keeper." She looked up from the terminal. "Do you have the form?" I had the form. We worked for 2 hours. Marin Voss did not rush, but she did not stop. She pulled the original filing, identified 3 additional classification inconsistencies that I had not found, corrected them all, and built the reclassification addendum in a format that would satisfy both the compact and the Theshari Council's review standard simultaneously. She knew the review standard. She had, apparently, read the Theshari Survey Authority's procedural manual at some point, because she cited the correct subsection from memory and entered it into the addendum without looking it up. When it was done, she sent it to both parties for countersignature, filed a copy on the primary band, and then, because she had apparently anticipated that as well, filed a second copy on the auxiliary band, the record copy, because that was the correct place for arbitration resolutions under Keth-Spur Protocol. I had not remembered that. She had. The Compact's Council countersigned within 20 minutes. The Theshari Council held for 40 and then countersigned as well. The secondary hold dissolved. The environmental processing contract unlocked automatically. The air recyclers came back to full operation with 22 hours of reserve remaining. Voss closed her terminal and began repacking the cases. She had been on the station for 2 hours and 40 minutes. "I'll file the visit as a routine accord observation," she said. "Standard log notation, unless you want something more formal on record." "What I want on record," I said, "is the accurate account." She looked at me for a moment. Something moved in her expression, not satisfaction, not the thing I would have put there if I had done what she had done. Something quieter than that. "That's your call," she said. "You're the accord keeper." She left on the next shuttle out. She did not wait to be thanked. She did not ask whether anyone had noticed what she had brought, or whether the 200 people on the station knew who had fixed the recycler chain, or whether the record would reflect her name at all. I looked up her service file that evening. Marin Voss had been the Earth Observer at Keth-Spur 1 for 11 months. She had attended every session. She had asked, at each one, whether the agenda had been posted to the auxiliary band. She had filed routine acknowledgement forms. She had never cast a vote that changed an outcome. She had, however, read the Theshari Survey Authority's procedural manual. She had memorized the Keth-Spur Accord Section 9 standing rights. She had kept a portable reclassification terminal in her transit kit. She had monitored the auxiliary band, the one for equipment logs and decommissioned relay stations. And when a filing came through on it from a species that had publicly mocked her seat in open session 14 months earlier, she had docked at secondary base 6 hours later without being asked twice. I wrote the accurate account. It is longer than the routine log notation, and it does not reflect well on me, and I filed it on the primary band and the auxiliary band both, because that is the correct place for arbitration resolutions under Keth Spur Protocol, and I have been doing it correctly ever since. The laughter in session 42 is also on the record. I have not asked for it to be corrected. It is the most useful thing in the file. Every new accord keeper I train reads it first.